Phil, a very good evening to you. So how do you expect this outcome from the court today to impact on an already tense relationship between the EFF and the media?
Well, I think it's important to first note that it was a stonking victory for the EFF. Sanef lost on just about every ground. The judge did not order cost to it. And you have to accept that. It's an excellent judgment for free speech. It's not such a great judgment for trolling and opening the doors to trolling.
So, yes, this judgment where the EFF won on almost every score.
Yes.
Should the court avenue have been where Sanef and these journalists listed in the court proceedings pursued? I know at some point the Editors Forum had tried to speak to the EFF, but the EFF said, sorry, we're not available. What else could have been done?
So Sanef is very much an organisation born after the South African Constitution, so it's got at the heart of it that we talk about things first. We engage deeply. We try and find each other in a characteristically South African way. Mashlase, our leader, did try to do that on numerous occasions, to say to the EFF, let's come around a table, let's try and work out a way of engaging with each other civilly. So court really was the last stop. And to be honest with you, that day in November 2018, outside the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, it was a pretty scary place to be. And I think, like many South Africans, in the last resort, you use the courts.
And you mentioned that, this is a great judgment as far as freedom of speech and all of that is concerned. But as far as internet trolling, that's a fairly new avenue still, and there isn't really much law around that space. Is that what needs to happen first, where we push for the development of new laws to deal with that sort of problem?
So I thought about this quite deeply today. What's pretty clear to me, and obviously one must respect the judgment, very wise judgment, but it's clear to me that the judge hasn't quite seen where trolling armies have gone to in the world, and where the social platforms, largely Twitter, Facebook, but also WhatsApp to a large extent, are hosting massive political disinformation campaigns. This week you saw Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. He's before the US Congress. This really is the next frontier for free speech, disinformation, hate speech. And it's true that our laws have not caught up with that. Ultimately, I don't think anywhere in the world's laws have caught up with it, and that the solution lies with the platforms, for them to use those very powerful algorithms to wash that lack of civility, the trolling, out of it. Because what the EFF argued in their papers, and where the judge agreed with him, is all the people who troll many of us on Twitter, you can't draw a causal link between the political party and their supporters. That's now clear case law. I do think the next stop has to actually be Silicon Valley. They don't really listen to us in Africa, though. Hey?
Well, we'll be sure to send them a recording of this conversation. I want us to get to the nub of the EFF's issue with some of the journalists in our industry, because what they say upsets them as a party, away from the trolling, is what embedded journalism and reporters who are pushing a specific agenda. Again, Sanef, of course, has an inquiry into previous transgressions in the media as far as that theme is concerned. Are we dealing harshly enough as newsrooms with that sort of problem, and is there a lot of introspection among editors and their teams on where really there are cases where you can see that there's been a blatant bias against the EFF and any other party?
So I think that as somebody from the Daily Maverick, I find it incredibly sad that we find ourselves in a position where, for example, Mboseni won't take a call, won't answer. They say that we are banned. I think we have to test that, because banning isn't a good thing. So when I used to edit, I had very simple rules, is that you have to ensure that half of any set of content you put out is the other side of the story. That can be a challenge, but I think the way that you get through this is through absolute balance. I do think that the
Does that
EFF,
balance exist?
I think on the whole, South African media is a balanced place. I know that there are great concerns about partisanship at the moment. If, though, you look at the statistics, the EFF gets more than its fair share of coverage, and most of that coverage is viewed to be dispassionate toward positive. Are
politicians thin-skinned?
Are they thin-skinned?
Are they?
No, I think think that our politicians, I've seen you guys put them through quite tough interviews, and for me they rise to the occasion, and that's because our ecosystem of respect for the media and recognition that it's such a vital part of our democratic firmament is quite well entrenched, and the judge again said so in that judgment today.
Fail Haffajee, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Fail is with the Daily Maverick.